Hello, welcome back to 3D Drawing for your Model Railway. In today's lesson, we're going to continue on from what we were doing in the last one. I'm going to start to add the Parrot wagons into Chitubox and set them up for printing. So if we come at the top, we can open the file at the top here, and you can navigate to where you're keeping your print files. We select any one of these, doesn't matter which one you select really to start with. When you're importing, you can see how the red bits are overhanging. Obviously, they're not going to print in that position, so we're going to have to rotate the model. So you can see from the different colours here which rotation we want. So we want the Z blue axis. I'm just going to rotate that 90 degrees so it's got to kind of feel a little bit better. You can still see that the ends are overhanging. So we're going to have to rotate on the red axis here to try and generate some angle and obviously get them all to within the print area. Now, one thing we're going to have to consider here excuse me, is our print angle with these parts on the bracing, because what we don't want them to do is to be level with the bed or slightly below it. So again, if we come back in, and we're going to just rotate this a bit more, and we're going to actually go quite steep really with it, so that there is an uphill or upwards angle on these. I will still need to support underneath them, but I do definitely want an angle there rather than being flat to the build plate, because it will just warp otherwise. So that's going to be quite a steep angle, and that's going to mean these are going to take quite some time to print with a 0.3mm layer height that I use. But it's a necessary component of being able to do this. So once we've got it at the angle here that we're happy with, I'm going to then start to add the supports in. Now personally, I never use auto supports. You could do if you wanted to. You can just click on auto and it'll automatically put all these in, but I always find that it never really gets everything you need, and you end up having to go through them and just do them yourself anyhow. So I always just do them all myself and add them all manually. Okay, so we're going to start at the bottom of the model. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I'm going to start adding across the buffers here at the bottom. So I'm going to add, I'm on medium supports here. Couple of supports on to the bottom of the buffer there. Just have a rotate around, see where else it needs on the bottom. Just wondering whether this one here might should be okay. What I'm tempted to do though is just add a couple of light supports across the sides here on each one, just to help keep that buffer nice and straight as it goes printing up. And because they're only light supports, they'll fire off quite easily and not leave any markings there really. Okay, going back to the medium supports, I'm going to just run some medium supports all the way along this lower edge here. Okay, happy with that. I'm now going to come down or up the side, whichever way you want to look at that. And again, just running medium supports up the side here. Where'd that go to? Let's move that one. There's no real method of what I'm doing here other than I'm trying to keep them all at a reasonable distance from each other so they're all supported all the way along, so the model doesn't have a tendency to deform as it's printed. I want to stay reasonably close to the edge, not overhanging. And I'm just going to do the same excuse me, on both sides of the model here. And you'll we need to do them on the end of the buffer there as well, because that's what's going to be hanging by itself. And we're ultimately we're just looking for all the little islands as well, making sure everything's all nice and supported as we go along. Run some along here. I'm going to use the lower edge rather than the top edge. Obviously that's going to be unsupported as it goes across there, so it's just adding that extra support in. Okay, so now we've gone all the way around the outside. I'm going to go and do the same across the middle of the model as well. So again, just coming along the middle here, I'm going to put a couple on those two bits there, and on those diagonal bracing. And I'm going to say, just coming along the lower edge of that brace, maybe some across the middle here, and I'm going to add some in here. Okay, so now what we're happy to do here is support the edge of these. Try to get this right on the edge, and that's where the lower part of the well sits. So if I zoom out there, those ones we just put in run across this lower edge here. So again, I'm just going to zoom back in underneath here. I'm going to just add a couple of extra ones on the side there, just to give it a bit of bracing for diagonal forces there. And I'm just going to now run supports up the middle of the model there. Try and grab these parts on there, and we can along those ones as well. So that's everything braced underneath. That should give us plenty of support there. So now we're going to look for anything that's going to need a bit of bracing on top. Now realistically, these side rails, handrails here should be fine, but the two end ones here are going to be weak along the bottom. So I'm just going to bring some light supports in. Try and get them on the bottom edge here. So these supports, they're just going to help to hold the handrail up along the bottom edge here. You can see how they are going to support, I don't like that one. Quite like these supports, with a triangle on the bottom. They're really light and they do come off really simple and easy. That's it. And they leave very little scarring really. So I quite like those ones. Do the same on the bottom here. Three across the bottom. Again, hopefully that should leave very little scarring on those. Side, as I say, shouldn't really need anything. That they should support themselves as they print. Everything there should be okay. What I'm just going to do is just going to slice this, and then we'll have a look to see if there's any extra supports needed. So here you can see that it's finished slicing this model. One wagon is going to take approximately, say 44 pence worth of resin. You're probably going to be looking at something like 60-70 pence of resin when you count for wastage and things like that. It's going to take the best part of 14.5 hours to print, and that's really because I use 0.03mm layer height. So there's a lot of people who use 0.05, but if you think we're doing engage, we're doing some really thin, delicate pieces. The more layers you get to it, the more detail you're going to actually achieve. Or sorry, the thinner the layers, the more detail you're going to achieve. So now that's sliced, I'm just going to save that file. I'm going to put it in the same folder. I'm quite happy to use the same file name. I'll click on save. And we can jump into, it's going to write the file. I've opened up Photon file validator here. Now obviously you're not all going to have this. This is just a quick and easy way of me looking for any islands. Some software like Lychee has this built in. I have to try Lychee at some point, but I'm getting reasonable results with Chitubox, and I'm competent using it. So at the moment I'm probably just creature habit stuck with what I've got. Okay, so that's written successfully. So if we open the file up, navigate to the correct folder. Select that Chitubox file, and then it will run through checking each layer. Now this is going to take a little while because there's best part of 3,000 layers to go through. So again, I'll just pause the recording while it does this. Okay, so now that's finished running through. You can see it's come up with a list of all these unsupported islands. I can just click on start and it will automatically try and fix as many of them as it can. But as you see, there's at least one there on layer 212 that we're going to have to go in and fix. Okay, so that's not too bad actually. There's only two. So if we have a look at those two. Okay, so that's on the bottom of the buffer there. And that could be on the side, definitely on the side of the buffers there. So we'll have a look at those and see what we can fix in there. Bring this down to layer 212, I think it was. Two on two is this piece here. So again, we'll use light support on these. I'm just going to stick a light support on there. Let's see if we can get into this one. let's delete that support, add a light along the bottom there, and then we'll put a medium support back on there. Okay, and then the next one was 244. Again, we're looking, where are they? So that's this bit here that's not supported. Just have a, it's the bottom of the rivet. So again, we're just looking for light supports. Just going to tap on the end there. Okay, and then we'll rotate that back to the top. So the buffers are going to be a little bit of a nightmare there, getting all these supports off, but unfortunately they're going to be needed, so that's good. So yeah, it was just those two layers there, so that's those completed. So obviously with this taking so long to print, I'm going to try and get the best out of this that I can. I'm going to actually add another one of those in. See if I can get multiple prints in here. Actually go and check, see if I get 3 in. Might not be able to with the width. Yeah, I probably would. They're going to be close. But yeah, it would. So I'm going to actually take one of them off because there's only actually 2 of them with the short handrails and 3 spindles. So I'm going to have 2 of those, and then I think I'm going to do 1 with 2, and then I'm going to create another file that will have 3 with the long handrails on them. So if we rotate this round, we want it 90 degrees on there. Bring it to the side. About the same. And then I'll just go through and I'm going to add exactly the same supports that we've just done onto this 2 cradle version. So I'm just going to add these supports to this 2 cradle version now. The same as before, just going to go around, look for all these areas that need supporting. Start with those mediums. And then we'll just go down the side again, adding those side supports on. and save that there. Back and do the same on this side. And then we'll go along the middle. It's starting at the bottom part. You'll notice that I have a tendency to alternate from side to side when I'm doing them, and that's so that, as you see, these are tied in on this side and the next row tied in the other side. So again, we're just going to go all the way along the middle, and I'm alternating from side to side. You notice that when I start on a side, I initially, if I was to do this one here, it won't actually tie into the side. But if I put it more towards the left slightly of this, it's just close enough that it'll bring that tie across. And every now and again, if it doesn't do it, it's not the end of the world. I'll just go to the next one up and then bring that across. What it's trying to do is stop these sides trying to want to splay outwards as it prints. The buffers on the end as well. And then we need some light supports on the bottom of the hat rail. Right, so if we slice that, let's try and centre this a little bit better. A bit more even there. And what I'm actually tempted to do is rotate this one on the blue axis by 90 degrees. Sorry, 180 degrees. So the forces are sort of a little bit more balanced. So that everything is just a little bit more even when it prints there. Try and stop any wobble on it. Do that slice again. Okay, so let's stick the file back into the validator. So we're using the photon file. I'm just going to run that through the layers again. Okay, so let's have a look at the fixes it wants to do. Again, it should just be moving all the pixels around by itself. Hopefully we've got everything already pre-supported. There we go, so it's got one on layer 280, so let's have a look at that to see what we need to do with it. Okay, so that's missing some support on the rivets again. Excuse me. Interesting, it's going for the top ones now. So, how am I going to get into there? Okay, so as you can see, Chitubox just crashed on me and I hadn't saved it at the right point. So without having to go back and do all this, I can just go into my validator and just do a little bit of editing in here. So I can just do that, and that's basically going to just support the bottom of that rivet without me having to put any supports on it. So thankfully, it's quite useful, this validator here. Just check the next layer up, make sure it's still supported. Okay. Yep, all joined in. So yeah, it's not going to make any difference there. I'm happy with that, so I'm going to save that, and then I can print it. So I hope you've enjoyed today's lesson. You've been able to create your own print files for this wagon, and if you have, please upload them to Facebook. Let's everyone see what other people are achieving. Thanks for watching.